Please like this video. It will really help this story reach as many people as possible. Thank you so much for your support. Lauren walked into our kitchen like she'd just won something. Not, good morning, energy. Not, I grabbed groceries, energy. This was too bright, too polished, too proud. Like she'd been somewhere she didn't have to explain herself, and she liked it. She set a bouquet of red and white roses in the sink like it was a takeout bag. Friend gave these to me, she said, smiling at her own reflection in the microwave door. Pretty, right? I didn't answer right away. I looked past her shoulder into the living room. Yesterday, I brought her cream-colored roses. Her favorite. I'd even trimmed the stems and put them in the good vase like some guy trying to keep his house from feeling like a motel. Those roses were still there, untouched, leaning tired, petals starting to curl. So she hadn't moved mine, hadn't even looked at them, but she walked in glowing with somebody else's. I kept my voice flat. Since when do caring men buy you roses and you just accept them? Lauren's smile tightened. Why do you always do this? Do what? Turn everything into a thing. She waved a hand like she was clearing smoke. They're just flowers, Matt. I leaned on the counter, calm. They're not just flowers. It's a man bringing you something, and you bringing it into our house. She exhaled hard like I was forcing her to carry a boulder. God, you're exhausting. Answer the question. She set her purse down slowly, like she was in a courtroom and needed to look innocent. You don't own me. I gave a small nod. Correct. And you don't get to interrogate me over some stupid bouquet. Then why are you defensive over a stupid bouquet? Lauren's eyes flashed. Because you're controlling. That's why. You watch everything I do. You make me feel like I'm on a leash. I stared at her for a second, trying to find the woman I married in the woman standing there performing a speech. Lauren, I said, measured. I'm not asking who you are. I'm asking what you're choosing. She scoffed. Oh my God. I walked over to the sink, picked up the bouquet, and dropped it into the trash like it was spoiled food. The sound was soft, but the moment wasn't. Lauren froze. Then her face turned sharp. What is wrong with you? I shut the lid, wiped my hands on a towel, and looked at her. Nothing. I just woke up. Her mouth opened and closed once. Then she snapped. You can't control who gives me flowers. I nodded again, like she'd finally said something true. I can't. She looked smug for half a second, like she'd won. And you can't control it either, I added. But you can choose whether you accept it. Lauren's nostrils flared. So now you're giving me rules. I'm giving my house rules, I corrected. I can't control you. I can decide what stands in my home. You made a choice. I'm making one too. She stepped closer, voice low and nasty. You're going to regret acting like this. I held her gaze. No, I'm going to regret pretending I didn't see it. She grabbed her phone off the counter, thumbs moving fast, like she needed an audience. You're unbelievable. Good, I said. Maybe you'll stop taking me for predictable. She stared at me like I'd slapped her without moving a muscle. Then she turned and walked out of the kitchen, heels clicking like punctuation. I stayed right where I was, listening to the silence settle in. If I'd known where it was headed, I would have dumped those roses in the trash and changed the locks in the same motion. Instead, I made coffee and watched my own roses dying in the living room, like a timer counting down. For the next 3 days, we lived like roommates who didn't like each other. We passed in hallways. We used the same fridge. We avoided eye contact like it cost money. Lauren would open her mouth like she wanted to jab me, then remember she'd have to explain herself and shut it again. That was new. Usually she talked her way out of things. This time she chose distance. That told me she was protecting something. On Tuesday night, I cooked chicken and rice. Basic. Responsible. The kind of meal you make when your life is trying to slide sideways and you refuse to let it. Lauren walked in, glanced at the food, and made a face. That's it, she asked. I didn't look up from the pan. That's it. No salad. If you want salad, make salad. She laughed, short and fake. Wow. So this is the new you. Mr. Tough Guy. I plated my food. This is the me who doesn't perform for disrespect. Oh my God. She tossed her keys on the counter. You're still on the flowers? I'm on the choice, I said. The flowers were just the receipt. She leaned her hip against the counter, arms crossed. You want to know what it felt like? It felt nice. Someone noticing me. Someone doing something thoughtful without turning it into a lecture. I finally looked at her. So you're punishing me for being your husband. I'm not punishing you, she said quickly. See? This is what I mean. You twist everything. Do I? I took a bite, chewed, swallowed. Yesterday, I brought you roses. You left them to rot. Today you come in shining with someone else's. That's not twisting. That's math. Lauren's jaw worked like she was chewing her anger. Maybe your roses didn't feel special because you do it to keep me quiet. I smiled once tired. That's cute. You just called my effort manipulation while you defend a stranger's bouquet like it's a human right. Stop, she snapped. Just stop. You're making me feel like the bad guy. I lifted my fork. If you feel like the bad guy, maybe look at the script you're reading from. Lauren stepped forward. You know what? Fine. You want space? Take space. Already doing it, I said. That bothered her. You could see it. She wanted me to chase. She wanted me to ask, beg, bargain. She wanted the power of being able to say no. Instead, I stood up, rinsed my plate, and walked down the hall to the guest room. Lauren called after me. So you're sleeping in there now? I didn't turn around. I'm sleeping where I can breathe. She let out a sharp laugh. You're dramatic. I paused at the doorway and looked back. No, Lauren. I'm organized. That night, while she watched TV alone, I did something I should have done years earlier. I logged into our banking app and opened a separate account in my name. Same bank. Simple. No speeches, no threats. Just a door that could close if I needed it. I moved my direct deposit over before midnight. Not to punish her. Not to play games. To remind myself I had options. When you start seeing disrespect, you don't argue it into respect. You change your position. On Thursday afternoon, Lauren texted me out of nowhere. Can we reset? Dinner tonight. My treat. Please. It was soft. Almost sweet. The first, maybe she gets it move. I stared at the message, then typed back. We can talk. Public place. 6 o'clock. I'm leaving at 6:45. She replied fast. Why are you like this? I answered. Because time with me isn't automatic anymore. Her typing bubbles appeared, then disappeared. No response. That told me everything. The next day was Friday. And Friday is where the smell showed up. Lauren usually got home at 6:30 on Fridays. Like clockwork. She loved being predictable when it benefited her. Let me pause the story for just a second. If you're still listening, please hit the like button on this video. It really helps YouTube show this story to more people. Thank you so much for the support. Now let's get back to the story. At 7:15, my phone still hadn't buzzed. No running late. No traffic. No nothing. When the garage door finally groaned open, I didn't rush to the window. I didn't do the anxious husband thing. I kept my seat on the couch, remote in my hand, the TV muted. She walked in with a little laugh, like she'd just left a funny conversation. Hey, she said casual. I didn't move. You're late. I know, she said, tossing her bag onto the chair. Long day. And no text. She shrugged like that was my problem. Then she stepped closer, and something hit me before she even spoke again. A heavy, woody cologne. Expensive. Not subtle. The kind of scent that announces itself. It didn't belong in my living room. I tilted my head. You smell different. Her smile flickered. Just a glitch. Then she recovered. What? You smell like a man. Lauren's eyes widened for a fraction of a second. That's ridiculous. Is it? She walked toward the kitchen, moving fast. You're doing this again. I followed at a calm pace. I'm naming what I'm noticing. You came in laughing, late, and you smell like someone else's choices. She set a glass on the counter too hard. There was a mess at work. Total mess. Okay. And then my tire was low, she added quickly, like she needed extra bricks. So a coworker from accounting gave me a ride. Name? She blinked. What? Name? I repeated. Who gave you a ride? She hesitated just long enough. Kyle. His name is Kyle. I watched her. Never heard of Kyle. He's new. How new? I asked. New like last week new? Or new like I just realized I need a name new? Lauren's cheeks tightened. Matt, stop. I leaned back against the counter, arms loose. How often are you getting rides from Kyle? It was one time, she snapped. One time. Do you hear yourself? You're acting like I did something wrong. I'm not accusing, I said. I'm asking. Who are you choosing to keep close to you? She rolled her eyes. Oh my God. It was a ride. My car was acting up. That's it. I nodded slowly. Funny. When I gave you a ride years ago, it didn't stay just a ride. Lauren stared at me like I'd thrown a rock through a window. That's manipulative. No, I said. That's reality. Things start small. That's how they stay hidden. She turned away, rummaging in a drawer like she needed something to hold. You're paranoid. I let it hang for a second. Why no text? I told you, she said through her teeth. Work. Work doesn't stop thumbs. Lauren slammed the drawer shut. You want the truth? I didn't text because I didn't feel like dealing with you. There it was. The disrespect wasn't even dressed up anymore. I nodded once. Good. Clear statement. Lauren turned, arms out. So what? You're going to punish me now. I'm going to adjust, I corrected. Different thing. What does that even mean? It means you're not getting the full access version of me while you act like you're single, I said. No more shared plans this weekend. I'm taking my truck up to the canyon early tomorrow. Alone. You're canceling our lunch with my parents? She snapped. Yes. You can't just. I cut her off. I can. I just did. She stared like she couldn't believe the ground moved without her permission. Then she did what she always did when she felt control slipping. She went cold. Fine, she said, voice flat. Do whatever you want. I grabbed my keys from the bowl. Already doing that. As I walked toward the garage, she called after me, sharp. You're making this into drama for no reason. I didn't turn around. No, Lauren. You're making it into a habit. I left her standing there with her cologne cloud and her new name, and I drove to a diner off College Avenue to eat pie and think. Because I wasn't going to do the pacing around the house thing. And because in the back of my mind, one question stayed open like a tab I couldn't close. If Kyle was just a ride, why did she smell like a decision? The next week, Lauren switched strategies. She turned on what I called normal mode, except it was too polished, too loud, too intentional. More makeup in the morning, like she was going somewhere that required approval. Phone always in her hand. Screen angled away. Little laughs at messages. She'd glance at me, then look down and smile again like she wanted me to see it and suffer quietly. On Monday, she walked past me in the hallway and brushed her fingers against my arm. Hey, she said soft. I'm sorry we've been tense. That was the first illusion. Light apology. Easy touch. No substance. I stopped and looked at her. You're sorry for what? She blinked. For us fighting. That's not an answer, I said. What are you actually sorry for? Her face tightened a little. You always need details. Yes, I said. Because vague apologies are just noise. Lauren forced a smile. Okay, I'm sorry you felt disrespected. I gave a short laugh. There it is. What? The classic, I said. You're sorry I felt something. Not sorry you did something. Lauren's voice sharpened. Why do you have to be like this? Can't you just accept it? I shrugged. I accept what's real. That wasn't real. She stared a second, then turned away like I'd failed a test she was grading. On Wednesday, she got bolder. We were eating dinner when she brought up her birthday party, coming up Saturday. I invited everyone, she said, smiling too wide. Neighbors, my cousin, some people from the office, my gym friends. Gym friends, I repeated. She waved a fork. Don't start. I'm not starting, I said. I'm noting. Lauren took a sip of water, eyes on me over the rim. You're coming, right? I live here, I said. It's my house too. Good, she replied, like she'd just secured a prop. I wanted to be nice. Translation, she wanted the picture intact. I leaned back. It will be nice if you don't turn it into a performance. She frowned. What does that mean? It means, I said, no surprises. Lauren let out a small laugh. You're so intense. Not intense, I corrected. Alert. She reached across the table and put her hand on mine. Can we just be good this week? For my birthday. That was tactic. She wasn't asking for repair. She was asking for quiet. I slid my hand back calmly. I can be civil. That's what you're getting. Lauren's eyes narrowed. Civil, wow? Lucky me. Try respecting me, I said. It upgrades the package. She pushed her chair back and stood up. You know what, forget it. Lauren, I said, not loud, but firm. You want the party? Fine. But I'm not smiling through disrespect for the sake of your image. She spun. So you're going to ruin my birthday? I'm going to prevent you from using me as decoration, I said. She stared at me, breathing hard, then grabbed her phone and walked out, tapping like she needed backup. On Thursday, I went to her office for the first time in months. Not to spy, not to argue, to change a variable. I walked into the lobby, nodded at the receptionist, older woman with sharp glasses and the kind of voice that didn't waste time. "Can I help you?" she asked. "I'm Matt," I said. "Lauren's husband." Her expression flickered. "Oh, hi. I'm updating emergency contact information," I said. "If there's a form, I'll fill it out." She looked confused. "Emergency contact for?" "For Lauren," I said, calm. "Starting today, I'm not primary. Put her sister Bree as first contact." The receptionist hesitated. I'll have to ask HR." "Please do," I said. "I'll wait." A minute later, an HR guy came out. Young, polite, nervous. "Sir," he said, "usually the employee handles that." "Usually," I agreed. "Today I'm handling my boundaries. Tell Lauren it's done." The HR guy looked like he wanted to disappear. "Okay." I nodded and walked out. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a scene. But it was on her turf, in public, with witnesses. And it sent a message. I was already moving my pieces. That night Lauren came home and tried the second part of the illusion. She was suddenly affectionate. Too affectionate. She leaned against the doorway of the guest room, wearing a sweet smile like it cost her nothing. "Hey," she said softly. "I made you coffee for tomorrow. The way you like it." I looked up from my laptop. "Why?" She blinked, hurt on purpose. "Because I care." "Do you?" I asked. "Or because you felt the floor shift at work today?" Her face froze for half a beat. Then she tried to laugh it off. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the fact that my name isn't your safety net anymore," I said. "If you want a calm home, earn it." Lauren's smile slipped. "You went to my office." "Yes." "Why would you do that?" she hissed. "That's humiliating." I shrugged. "So is being married to someone who thinks friend roses belong in our sink." Lauren stepped closer, voice tight. "You're trying to make me look bad." "No," I said. "You're doing that fine on your own. I'm just not standing in front of it anymore." She stared at me like she couldn't decide whether to charm me or bite me. Then she turned away quickly, tossing over her shoulder. "Whatever. Just don't do anything weird at my party." I watched her walk down the hall, phone already in her hand again. Let me pause the story for just a second. If you're still listening, please hit the like button on this video. It really helps YouTube show this story to more people. Thank you so much for the support. Now let's get back to the story. And I knew something was coming. Because when someone is juggling two worlds, they eventually drop something in public. Saturday arrived with candles, music, and Lauren acting like the queen of our suburban little kingdom. I kept it polite. I grilled burgers. I poured soda and iced tea. I nodded at neighbors. Our neighbor Tom was there, retired firefighter, blunt guy, the kind who reads people without saying much. He clapped me on the shoulder and muttered, "House looks good, man." "Thanks," I said. Tom looked past me toward Lauren, who was laughing too hard at something on her phone. "She's energized." I gave a small smile. "That's one word." My friend Marcus came too. Marcus is my coworker, quiet, observant, always saying less than he knows. He leaned in while Lauren was busy greeting people. "You okay?" he asked. "I'm awake," I answered. Marcus nodded like that was enough. "Call if you need a hand moving something." He didn't say what. He didn't have to. Lauren's cousin Jenna showed up with loud compliments and louder opinions. "Lauren, you look amazing," Jenna squealed. Then she looked at me. "Matt, you're so lucky." Lauren laughed. "He knows." I sipped my drink. Lucky is a two-way street. Lauren's smile tightened. She didn't like me talking like a man who wasn't afraid of silence. Around 5:40, I noticed Lauren's attention shift. She wasn't looking at the guests. She was looking toward the driveway. I followed her line of sight. A black, spotless car rolled up slow like it wanted to be noticed, but not caught. It stopped at the end of the driveway. The engine stayed on. The driver sat there for a moment, hands on the wheel, like he was running through a script. Then he got out. Tall, confident walk. Expensive clothes. Sunglasses even though the sun was doing nothing. In his hand was a small gift bag, the kind you buy when you want applause for effort. Lauren's face did something strange, half excitement, half panic. I set my drink down and walked outside. I met him halfway down the driveway. He stopped when he saw me, but tried to keep his smile. "Hey man," he said easy. "I'm just a friend. From the gym. Dropping off a gift." I looked at the bag. No need. His smile faltered. It's her birthday. I know, I said. That's why you're not walking into my house. He shifted his weight. Look, she said it was fine. Of course she did, I replied. He took a half step like he might try to go around me. I stepped in closer, not aggressive, just present. And there it was. That cologne. The same heavy, woody scent Lauren wore home on Friday. My voice stayed calm. Here's your choice. You have 30 seconds to leave with what's left of your self-respect. Or I take that bag inside and ask her, in front of everyone, why a gym friend is delivering jewelry to a married woman. His face went pale under the sunglasses. I didn't know. Now you do, I said. He swallowed, eyes darting past me to the patio where people were laughing, unaware. Tell her happy birthday, he mumbled. I won't, I said. He got back in the car fast, like he wanted to erase the last minute. The black car rolled away, slow at first, then quicker once it hit the street. I walked back to the front door. Lauren stood there with a glass in her hand, smile stuck on like tape. But her eyes were different now, not smug, afraid. Later, when the music dipped and people were busy talking, I motioned her toward the kitchen. She followed, trying to act normal. As soon as the door swung shut, I spoke. Who was that? Lauren set her glass down carefully, like she was placing a weapon. A friend. Name. She hesitated. Ethan. I nodded slowly. And Ethan brings you gifts like that? It was just coffee sometimes, she said quickly. We talk. That's it. I kept my tone even. A friend doesn't sit in a running car like he's deciding whether to risk getting caught. Lauren's eyes flashed. You're reading into it. A friend doesn't wear the same cologne that shows up on my wife when she's late, I added. Her mouth opened, then closed. I leaned in slightly. You want to try again? Lauren's voice dropped. I didn't cross a line. I looked at her like she'd just called the sky green. You crossed it when you started hiding. She scoffed. I can have friends. You can't, I said. But you don't get to run 2 lanes and call it innocent. Lauren lifted her chin. You're making me feel trapped. No, I replied. You trapped yourself. I'm just not padding the walls. She started to turn away, and I stopped her with one sentence. Do you want me to tell everyone out there what just happened? Her eyes snapped back. Don't you dare. I'm asking, I said calmly, because I can walk into that living room right now and say, hey, quick question, why did Ethan just try to deliver a jewelry bag to my wife? Lauren went pale. Matt, stop. I held her gaze. I covered you. For now. Don't confuse that with blindness. She whispered, you're doing this to embarrass me. I nodded once. No, I'm doing this to protect my name. I walked out of the kitchen, grabbed my keys, and stepped outside. I sat in my truck because I wasn't going to blow up in my own living room. That would have given her a story to tell people. I sat there, engine off, hands resting, breathing normal. Then the passenger door opened. A woman slid in. Bree, Lauren's younger sister. Bree has always been the inconvenient kind of smart. She doesn't play family politics. She watches, she counts, she speaks when it matters. She looked at me, not smiling. Your wife is lying to you. I didn't react big. Go on. Bree folded her hands in her lap. I've seen her with him. Not once. Not twice. A bunch. At the gym. Outside the gym. They don't talk like friends. I stared ahead through the windshield. You're sure? Bree snorted. I'm not 12, Matt. I know what I'm looking at. What's his deal? I asked. Ethan likes attention, she said. And Lauren likes being the kind of woman men chase. She's been soaking that up. I nodded slowly. She said coffee. Bree laughed without humor. Coffee? Sure. And the gift bag? That's not coffee. I looked at her. Why tell me? Bree's eyes hardened. Because she's about to make you the villain. She's been testing how far she can go and still keep the house, the stability, the image. She wants both worlds. I stayed quiet. Bree leaned in slightly. She keeps saying she didn't cross a line. But the line is when you start hiding. And honestly, she almost wants you to catch her. She wants the thrill without being the one to confess first. I exhaled through my nose. So what now? Bree looked toward the house. Now you stop protecting her picture. She said it like a plan already formed. I could walk in there, Bree continued, and blow it up. Everyone would know she's been playing games. I glanced at her. That's your solution? Bree shrugged. She cares about reputation more than respect. Hit what she worships. I stared at the steering wheel for a second. I don't want a circus. Bree's lips pressed together. Then she'll keep running the show. I thought about Lauren's eyes at the door. The fear wasn't about hurting me. It was about being seen. Bree reached over and grabbed my hand. Come inside with me, she said. Let them see something shift. I hesitated. Bree gave me a look like she'd already decided. You don't have to say a speech. Just walk in. Let the room read it. I nodded once. We got out. And the second we stepped into the living room, people noticed. Because Bree didn't just walk beside me. She held my hand. Conversation thinned. Faces turned. Lauren looked up from the kitchen entrance and froze. Bree didn't slow down. She walked me right into the center of the room, turned, and kissed me. Not sloppy, not romantic, deliberate, slow, like a flag planted. The room went dead quiet. Lauren's glass slipped from her fingers and shattered on the tile. Bree looked toward her sister and said, clear as day, seems like someone should ask Lauren about the man who keeps showing up for her. People didn't gasp like in movies. They did something more real. They avoided eye contact. They backed away. They suddenly remembered they had to leave. Tom muttered, happy birthday, and guided his wife toward the door. Jenna's mouth hung open. Lauren, what is going on? Lauren's face went red, then white. She tried to laugh, but it came out broken. This is insane, she snapped. Bree, you're sick. Bree didn't blink. I'm honest. Marcus caught my eye from across the room and gave a small nod, like he'd seen enough to understand. Within minutes, the party collapsed. Not because I yelled. Because the picture cracked, and everyone could see the crack. Lauren stood in the wreckage, crumbs on plates, a broken glass on the floor, candles still burning for nobody. As I walked past her toward the hallway, she grabbed my arm. Matt, she hissed. How could you let her do that? I looked down at her hand on my sleeve, then back at her face. You're worried about that kiss. Her eyes flashed. Of course I'm worried. That was humiliating. I nodded. Exactly. And I kept walking. Behind me, Lauren whispered, shaky, this isn't over. I didn't answer. Because I'd already moved past the part where her words mattered. And I knew the next move would be hers. Something sweet, something soft, something meant to pull control back. That's what people do when the room stops clapping for them. Let me pause the story for just a second. If you're still listening, please hit the like button on this video. It really helps YouTube show this story to more people. Thank you so much for the support. Now let's get back to the story. Sunday morning, Lauren acted like a completely different person. She was up early, hair pulled back, wearing that wholesome wife, looked like a costume. The kitchen smelled like pancakes and fake peace. She smiled when I walked in like the last 24 hours hadn't happened. Morning, she said brightly. I made breakfast. I poured coffee. I see that. She placed a plate in front of me, too carefully. I'm sorry about yesterday. I took a bite. Chewed. Swallowed. Sorry about what part? Lauren blinked. About the drama. Whose drama? I asked. She sat across from me, hands folded. Bree was out of line. I looked at her. That's your focus. Not Ethan. Not the roses. Not the late nights. Bree. Lauren's smile tightened. I'm trying to fix things. No, I said. You're trying to reframe things. She leaned forward. Matt, listen. I panicked. Bree's jealous. She's always been jealous of me. I raised an eyebrow. Jealous of your birthday party that ended with everyone sprinting for the door. Lauren's eyes narrowed. Don't be sarcastic. I'll stop being sarcastic when you stop being strategic, I replied. She reached across the table like she was about to touch my hand again. I want us to be okay. I pulled my hand back and stood. You want your life to be okay. Lauren's voice sharpened. What does that mean? It means you're not sorry, I said. You're assessing damage. Her face flushed. That's not fair. I set my mug down. Here's what's fair. You don't get to keep playing I didn't cross a line while you stockpile attention from men like it's a savings account. Lauren stood up too, voice rising. I didn't do anything. I held up a hand. Stop. You don't get to shout your way into innocence. She inhaled, trying to pull herself together. So what? You and Bree are what? That's what this is. I stared at her. No, I'm not with her. Lauren looked confused for a second, like she didn't know what story to tell herself. I'm just, I added, for the first time in a long time, on my own side. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out that sounded smart. I grabbed my keys. I'm going out. Where? She demanded. Somewhere I don't get lied to, I said. Don't wait up. I left her standing there with pancakes and a smile that had nowhere to go. I drove to Marcus's place across town, helped him swap a water heater. Simple work. Real problems. Real solutions. At one point, Marcus handed me a wrench and said, "You sure you want to go back home tonight?" I tightened a bolt. "I don't want to. I need to." He nodded. "Just remember, a calm voice doesn't mean you accept chaos." "I know," I said. "It means I'm choosing the moment." When I got back that evening, I came in through the garage like always. And then the universe handed me the kind of detail you can't ignore. I clipped the trash bin with my truck bumper. Not hard, but enough to tip it. The lid popped open. Bags spilled. Random junk scattered across the driveway. I cursed under my breath. Nothing dramatic, just annoyed. I got out and started picking it up. That's when I saw it. A flattened cardboard box, shoved under a bag like someone had tried to hide it fast. I pulled it out and stared. A multi-pack box of pregnancy tests. Empty. I didn't feel shocked. I felt cold. Because Lauren and I hadn't been together in 6 weeks. Not a guess. Not a vague memory. A fact. 6 weeks of her being tired, stressed, not in the mood, while still somehow having energy to glow into my kitchen with someone else's flowers. I stood there in the driveway with that empty box in my hand, listening to the quiet neighborhood and realizing the math didn't work. I carried the box inside like evidence. Not to scream, to end the guessing. I walked into the living room, sat down, and placed it on the coffee table, right in the center, like a meeting agenda. Then I waited. Lauren came in a few minutes later, humming softly, like she'd had a productive day pretending. She stopped when she saw the box. Her body reacted before her mouth did. Shoulders stiff, eyes locked, face drained. She tried to smile. It failed halfway. "What is that?" I kept my voice calm. "Something that fell out of the trash." Lauren swallowed. "I can explain." "Go ahead," I said, leaning back. She stepped closer, hands fluttering like she needed something to hold. I panicked. I was late. I didn't want to scare you. I bought them just in case. I stared at her, then said one sentence that cracked her whole script. "We haven't been together in 6 weeks." Lauren froze. Her mouth opened, then closed. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't move toward her. I just let the truth sit between us like a weight. She whispered, "That's not." "It is," I cut in. "And don't try to confuse me with noise." Lauren's eyes darted toward the hallway, like she was looking for a door. I kept going. "Also, Bree showed me your messages." Her head snapped up. "What?" "Screenshots," I said. "Full chains. Dates. Times. You and Ethan." Lauren shook her head fast. "No. Those are out of context." I nodded slowly. "That's the phrase people use when the context is ugly." She stepped forward, voice trembling. "Matt, listen, it was just words. It didn't mean anything." I held up a hand. "I know how he talks to you." Lauren's eyes widened. "I know what he calls you," I added. "I know which nights you told me work was insane and then texted him from the parking lot." She started shaking her head again, like denial was a shield. "You don't understand. I was lonely." I stared at her, calm. "You weren't lonely. You were greedy." Lauren flinched like the word hit harder than a slap. She dropped onto the edge of the couch, hands over her face. "I didn't want to lose you." I nodded once. "And yet you spent weeks acting like you wouldn't miss me." She looked up through tears. "Please, we can fix this." I pointed at the box on the table. "Are you sure?" Lauren froze again. I watched her face, the pause, the calculation, the fear. And then she whispered the one thing you can't take back. "I don't know." That was it. Not because of drama. Because of clarity. I stood up, walked to the guest room, and pulled out a small suitcase that had been packed for a week. Not because I was plotting. Because I don't do surprise emergencies. I came back with a folder too, printouts Bree had sent me, dates circled, messages highlighted. Clean. Organized. Boring in the most devastating way. Lauren stared at the folder like it was a weapon. "You planned this," she whispered. "I prepared," I corrected. "There's a difference." She stood up fast, voice rising. "So you're just throwing me out? After everything?" I looked at her, calm. "After everything you chose." Lauren took a step toward me, tears turning into anger. "You're cold." I cut her off. "Stop. This isn't one mistake. This is hundreds of small choices." She opened her mouth to argue. and I didn't let her build momentum. I walked to the front door, opened it, and stepped aside. Pack a bag, I said. Go to Breeze. Lauren stared at me, disbelief and panic fighting for space. You can't do this. I kept my voice level. Watch me. She tried to push past me into the living room, toward the couch, toward the familiar comfort of staying put. I moved one step, blocking without touching her. My calm was the wall. Lauren's eyes darted toward the hallway again. Matt, please. Don't do this. People will. I nodded. There it is. People. She flinched. You built this whole thing on looking desired, I said. On being the woman who gets gifts and rides and attention while keeping the house and the husband. You wanted both. You don't get both. She started crying again, messy now. I'll stop. I'll change. I didn't soften. You already showed me what you do when you think I'll stay quiet. Lauren's voice rose. So you're perfect? You're just going to erase me. I looked at her, steady. I'm going to remove you from the place you disrespected. She stood there, shaking, then finally walked down the hall and shoved clothes into a bag with angry, loud movements. She came back with the bag hanging off her shoulder, eyes swollen. At the door, she tried one last tactic. You're going to regret this, she said, voice low. You'll be alone. I held her gaze. Alone is better than being used. She stepped out. I closed the door. Not gently, not violently, just final. And I locked it. I stood there for a moment, listening to her footsteps fade. Then I picked up my phone and called a locksmith for the next morning. Because calm doesn't mean passive. It means finished. A few months later, my life looked simpler and better. I rented a clean place on the other side of Fort Collins, quiet street, decent garage, no tension in the walls. I kept my truck. I kept my routines. I slept through the night without listening for garage doors. Marcus and I started doing weekend hikes again. Tom invited me over to watch games and talk about anything but relationship drama. Bree stayed out of my life after that night. No weird follow-ups. No flirtation, no continuing the show. She did what she came to do. She broke the picture. Lauren tried to call it first. Then she tried to text sweet. Then she tried angry. I didn't debate. I didn't negotiate. I answered once short. We're done. Don't come to my door. Don't ask for access you already spent. After that, I went quiet. Not to punish. Because my attention isn't something people get to play with. Eventually, I met someone new through friends. Someone who didn't need a spotlight to feel real. Dinners were calm. Conversations were direct. Respect wasn't a prize. It was the entry fee. As for Lauren, I heard things the way you hear weather. Through other people, not because you're tracking it. She moved in with a relative for a while. The shiny life got less shiny when it wasn't funded by stability. People stopped inviting her places. The image she guarded so hard didn't survive the moment it got questioned. And the funniest part? Not funny like a joke. Funny like life has a sense of balance. She spent so much energy trying to keep control, and in the end, control left her the second I stopped participating. That morning with the roses, she thought she was bringing home proof she was wanted. She did. Just not by the one person whose respect actually mattered. And the last thing I ever said to her, before the door closed, was the truest sentence I've ever spoken. You made choices. Now live with them. Our story has come to an end. If you've made it this far, how about subscribing to our channel? It helps us immensely. I've selected 2 other videos for you that I'm sure you'll enjoy. Feel free to click on them. I'll be waiting for you in the next story. See you soon.